This video demonstrates how to interpret the season summary structure and irrigation specifications within AgriWiz. It covers crop identification, planting details, irrigation system parameters, and water management for optimal crop production. The season summary is divided into two columns, that is the general column and the irrigation column. The general column shows the crop field, which uniquely identifies the type of crop in the specific field. To specify the crop, AgriWiz uses the taxon, which is the genetic composition that includes the family, genus, and species of this specific crop. This is selected in the crop identity section of the season page. For further information, click on the CI button on the left-hand side of this page. The next field is the norm of the crop planted within this field. Crop norms are developed based on available knowledge about the specific crop type, planting location, average climate conditions, and other relevant factors. A norm is the key to unlock the potential for farmers to make informed decisions regarding irrigation and fertilization practices for their crops. Norms are specific for a particular crop and cultivar within a particular environment with specific management systems. For further information, click on the CN button on the left-hand side of this page. The dates field specifies the season start to season end dates. The start date is the beginning of the new season. It's crucial to ensure that the week number aligns with the corresponding week number in the crop norm. In AgriWiz, we consider the first Monday of a given week as the starting date for a new season. For example, the season begins in week 17 of the year 2024 that corresponds to Monday, April 22, 2024. This is then week 1 of the fruit production season. The season end date is derived from the crop norm and is linked to the season's length. The age field corresponds to the established date entered in the name and date section. This represents the current age of plants in the active season and the age at the end of the season for historical seasons. The planting field corresponds to details on the plant specs section, where you'll find information about planting density. Here's how it's presented. Firstly, between row spacing. The first number represents the distance between rows, also known as inter-row spacing. For example, the row spacing is 5 meters. Secondly, within row spacing, the second number refers to the spacing between individual trees within the same row, also called inter-row spacing. For example, the spacing is 1.5 meters. Combining these values, you get a planting arrangement of 5 meters by 1.5 meters. The total number of trees per hectare is then calculated based on this arrangement, for example 1,333 plants per hectare. For further information on plant specification, click on the PS button on the left-hand side of this page. On the right-hand side of this section, you'll find the irrigation column. The first item is canopy max. There are two values related to canopy max: the canopy cover, which includes the percentage field cover and percentage bed cover. Let's break it down. Canopy field cover. This value, in this example, 65.7%, considers the cover in terms of a hectare. Imagine flying over the orchard. What you see from above is the maximum canopy cover per hectare. It's crucial because we use this total canopy field cover to convert millimeters from evapotranspiration, ET0, to liters. Why? We estimate water usage in millimeters from ETO, but we need to provide recommendations in cubic meters. The canopy cover helps us make that conversion. The second value is the canopy bed cover. This refers to the canopy cover of leaves per bed. It represents the extent of leaf coverage within the designated growing space. For example, if the bed canopy cover is 93.9%, the orchard is almost fully matured. If it's 50% covered, the orchard is 50% matured. Essentially, this value pertains to the allowed space for the tree to grow. Remember, these values are generated based on plant specifications. Make sure the plant radius you input is accurate. It directly affects these two important metrics. For further information regarding plant specifications, click on the PS button on the left-hand side of this page. The second field, known as the specs of the irrigation system. The first value is the type of irrigation used, for example drip. The second value is the spacing between the beds, in this example it is 5 meters. This measurement extends from the middle of one bed to the middle of the adjacent bed. The term bed refers to the area allocated for tree growth. When dealing with single-line trees, this value aligns with the spacing between tree rows. The next value is the spacing between the emitters. Suppose we're working with drippers, and the distance between the drippers in the line is 1 meter. In that case, this measurement corresponds to the meter spacing. The next value is the amount of lines per bed. Typically, there are around 2 lines per bed, although this can vary from 1 line to 3 lines. The next value is the emitter delivery rate, for example 0.4 liters per hour. The last value displayed represents the system delivery rate per hectare per hour. For instance, if the rate is 1,600 liters per hectare per hour, this equates to 1.6 cubic meters per hectare per hour. The next item is the water specification, which refers to the quantity of irrigation water you will need for a full season. Let's break down the information about water usage for citrus farming. Irrigation water. The quantity of irrigation water needed for a full season is expressed in cubic meters per hectare. For example, the required irrigation water is 5,655 cubic meters per hectare. This value represents the water applied specifically through irrigation, excluding any contribution from rainfall. Effective rainfall. Effective rainfall refers to the amount of rainwater that contributes to soil moisture during the growing season. For example, the effective rainfall is 923 cubic meters per hectare. To calculate the total water use, irrigation plus effective rain, simply add the two values together. Remember to consider both irrigation and natural rainfall to ensure optimal water management for your crop. The last item in this column is reservoir. The soil reservoir refers to the capacity of a hectare of soil to store water. It's essential for efficient irrigation management. For example, the soil reservoir can hold 20 cubic meters of water per hectare. Determining soil reservoir. The dimensions of the wetting zone play a crucial role in determining the soil reservoir. For instance, consider the wetting radius and irrigation depth. If you're using drippers, you can calculate the storage area beneath each dripper using the formula for a sphere. AgriWiz also accounts for overlapping spots to make corrections. Percentage depletion of easily available water. You decide on a percentage for easily available water extraction from the reservoir. This value affects the amount of available water in the soil. For example, if the extraction percentage is 5%, the reservoir will be allowed to deplete to 95% of its capacity before refilling. Soil texture influences water retention. The percentage of silt and clay in the soil significantly impacts water holding capacity. Sandy soils hold less water compared to clay soils. Example calculation. Let's consider a soil with the following characteristics. Wetting radius, 0.2 meters. Soil depth, 40 centimeters or 0.4 meters. Silt and clay content, 25%. Depletion allowed, 5% of easily available water. Using these parameters, the soil will store 20 cubic meters per hectare. The video details the season summary layout, crop norms, planting arrangements, irrigation system specs, and water usage calculations for effective farm management in AgriWiz. We hope that you found it useful. For more information, consult the help files under the question mark at the top right of your AgriWiz program screen.